and Hoke. Heat and humidity that's been here for the past couple of days is long gone. Perfect conditions as Matt Weil gets ready to put it in play for Michigan. Amir Carlisle, part of a very much improved special teams unit for Notre Dame, awaits back. And Carlisle's going to bring it out from about 4 yards deep in the end zone and gets no further than the 16-yard line. Golson, a huge performance last week against Rice. 3 rushing touchdowns, a couple through the air. But again, a much different talent level that he's about to face up front for Michigan defensively. And even though Kelly said the Rice game so far was by far the best game of his career, this is what he wants to see if Golson can put it together back-to-back against this high-caliber Wolverine defense. So it's Tarian Folston who gets the start, but we'll see the other running backs, Cam McDaniel and Greg Bryant, as well, as the play clock goes down to 0.
Charge timeout. Notre Dame, they're first.
Just before.
I had trouble with that one. And last week against Rice, Rice came out in the second half, the same thing. How do you start a game with a potential delay of game? That's sloppy.
So we take a look at the Notre Dame offense. Golson at the controls. Again, Folston will get the start, but we will see the 2 sophomores. We'll see his fellow sophomore, Bryant, and of course the veteran McDaniel as well. Nick Martin, one of the 4 captains selected before the season began, anchors the Notre Dame offensive line. Lombard suffered an ankle sprain last week, but he is a go so far at right guard.
Jabril Peppers, Michigan's highly rated nickelback, #1 player in high school football, not in the game. He hurt an ankle last week and he's not on the field.
So the first play of the game goes to Folston, and he gets it up to about the 20-yard line for a gain of 4, where it'll be 2nd down and 6. Folston, 12 carries, 71 yards, part of a really balanced rushing attack last week in the Irish opener.
Yeah, you're going to see a lot of #1, Greg Bryant, explosive kid. They really want to get him more touches. And Cam McDaniel, pass protection and one of the most steady tailbacks in the country.
Ball just across the 20, 2nd down and 6. And the give once again up the middle to Folston, short of the 1st down. Will bring up 3rd down and a couple or so. As we still await to see if one running back, if any, kind of emerges from that running back core for Notre Dame. And there is Greg Madison, the Michigan defensive coordinator, who spent 8 years here at Notre Dame. Such a small world when you talk about Michigan and Notre Dame, coaches and players. Everybody just seems to know one another. 3rd down and 3. And Folston with his 3rd straight carry, very close to the 1st down.
You're right, Dan. It's right on that line.
See one indication that it is a 1st down indeed. The spot is for the 1st down for the Irish as you look at Brady Hoke. And Hoke, we talked about it briefly at the top. This team and really Hoke is in need of a win against a quality opponent on the road. They've never won a road game versus a ranked opponent. Hoke hasn't. So big, huge game for Hoke and the Wolverines, and able to hang on is Will Fuller, as Raymond Taylor was on the defensive coverage for Michigan, and that'll be a loss of 1.
Yeah, and this play was set up. If he doesn't bobble it and then have to turn towards the sideline, you'll see that he's able to come up inside. Watch what happens. The blocking is good in front of him. If he turns it up, that's a big play waiting to happen. Because of the bobble and then the turn outside instead of inside, it gives Raymond Taylor time to beat the block and make the tackle. You have to catch that cleanly.
Fuller had the 75-yard touchdown catch from Golson last week, as the 2 touchdown passes that Golson threw were the 2 longest of his career. But now 2nd down and 11 with a loss of 1.
Look at this.
And now with a play clock going down, another timeout.
Now look at his eyes. Golson's eyes there were big. He's looking over at his coach like, what did I do? And if you remember, Dan, 2 years ago, in this game, in this stadium, Golson was removed after one series in favor of Tommy Reese, who finished the game out.
We're not even
Look
two
at
and a half minutes in.
Look at that. There's some big eyes there, knowing there's a big stage right here. And how do you call 2 timeouts in the first 2.5 minutes? There's some nerves here. 2 timeouts and then Fuller with the bobble. There's some real nerves for these guys.
There was so much positive press and so much praise heaped on Golson's shoulder, and he did. He had a good game, but when we talked to Kelly yesterday, he said, whoa, now, let's pump the brakes a little bit here,
right.
Golson. Right. I'm really interested to see how he can handle all of that praise and do it the following week against a team like Michigan. So far, kind of a confusing start for Golson in the offense as they burn 2 timeouts. Second down and 11. Golson to the air, and that pass is complete at the 29 to Chris Brown, who had a couple of receptions last week. Gain of 5. We'll bring up 3rd down.
Yeah, Ronnie Stanley picks up the blitz, so Golson comes the opposite way, sees his receiver in between 2 of Michigan's best players. 57, Frank Clark, plays both defensive end and linebacker, and 47, Jake Ryan, is one of the best players in the Big Ten.
It's already having burned 2 timeouts. Here's Notre Dame, 3rd and 6 from its own 30.
Here comes Greg Madison with a cross blitz with the linebacker.
Golson hangs in, tosses to the near sideline, incomplete to Will Fuller, and the Irish will have to punt on the opening series. Blake Countess, the talented cornerback for Michigan, who picked up a couple of interceptions last year in the game on the coverage.
And good protection on a blitz. They're coming out of a tight bunch package. There's some separation there, and again, Fuller does not come down with the catch. Let's see if he should have. Ball's up there pretty high, foot's down. He can make that catch. So he bobbled one and missed another.
So 5'7", Dennis Norfleet awaits the Kyle Brinza punt, calls for a fair catch and drifts back to the 23-yard line, where Michigan will set a 46-yard punt for Brinza. No score in the early going between the Wolverines and Irish. Notre Dame football is brought to you by Under Armour, by Cadillac, by Sprint, official wireless services sponsor of Notre Dame athletics, and by U.S. Bank, all of us serving you, member FDIC. So here is Devin Gardner in the Michigan offense, setting up at the 23-yard line as the aerial coverage provided by Goodyear. Everything we've learned making tires that go the distance inspires what we roll into yours. Goodyear, more driven. Garden, who had the monster game, career game against the Irish last year. 4 touchdown passes, including rushing for 1, threw for 292 yards in the game. Dangerous on the ground and through the air, but the Irish there to meet Derek Green for a gain of maybe a couple. As we take a look at the Michigan offense, one of the sore spots, especially down the stretch, was the offensive line, but backs in receivers. Devin Funchess, again 6'5", 230, 7 catches last week, 3 touchdowns, all of them coming in the first half in the win over Appalachian State. And there's Graham Glasgow, who's welcomed back to the offensive line after a 1-game suspension. You've also got Mason Cole, a true freshman, starting at left tackle for the Wolverines. And there is Funchess. And in the words of Notre Dame defensive coordinator Brian Van Gorder, Devin Gardner and Devin Funchess are the 2 game wreckers, the 2 players he's worried about most.
Look, talent and size equal matchup issues, and we talked about that ad nauseum with Brian Van Gorder. Can you double them? How do you take them out? And Dan, one of the challenges is that number 1 lines up everywhere. Weak side, strong side, inside, outside. So number 1, you've got to locate him, and then you've got to try to contain him.
So Funchess' first catch is good for 12 yards and a Michigan first down. And going the other way here is Norfleet, just 5'7". Tough to see coming around those blockers, and he's about at midfield after a gain of 14.
Yeah, whenever you see an H-back fullback like Joe Kerridge right here come across, there's an alert. You're probably going to get misdirection, which you do. There's the handoff to number 23, Norfleet. Nice bounce to the outside. He reminds me, Dan, a lot of Jeremy Gallen, who Michigan had a year ago, who had 89 catches for almost 1,400 yards. Quicker than fast. You can use him in the slot. Great return guy. Amongst all those giants, he's the diminutive one.
Michigan on the move with another first down. They go to Funchess, and Funchess gets no more than a yard and a half or so. And Jalen Smith, who's been moved to the inside as a part of that Notre Dame defense, sophomore from Fort Wayne, Indiana, who's got more to think about, more responsibilities, with communication being the big talking point, no pun intended, for the Irish defense over the practice week.
The Irish had a couple of busted assignments in the secondary last week when Austin Collinsworth went out. No communications on the back end, and that was the point of emphasis all week long for the Irish practice. Communicate, see what happens tonight.
2nd and 8. Gardner out of the shotgun. And he gives it to Derek Green, who gets close to the first down. Green, the #1 ranked high school running back when he came out of high school in Richmond, Virginia. Part of a two-pronged rushing attack for Michigan as they want to get more physical up front and get back to that Michigan type of running game.
Yeah, he came in last year and he was too heavy. He got up to about 240 pounds, had a high ankle injury, was not as effective as he should have been. Coach Hope told us he's down to 222, a more mature kid, and he really reminds me a lot of those big, tough running backs that Alabama's had in their recent past.
There is Green, stop short, and that's going to bring up 4th down as the Irish defense is there to meet him.
Wow.
And so the ball spotted at about the Irish 42-yard line. 4th and 1, and it looks like Michigan's going to go for it.
Nice job by freshman Daniel Cage. Here comes Michigan up over the ball. 4th and 1.5. If you're the Irish, you've got to be alert to not jumping off sides on a hard count.
Way too far for a field goal. Michigan going to give it a shot here. The fake to Green. Gardner wheels, and the pass is complete to Carriage, who picks up the first down. Gain of 4. Key pickup on 4th down. Cole Luke on the stop for the Irish.
So difficult. Play action on 4th and 1. Courage is over here. Cole Luke has got him. Just hesitates a tiny bit on the run fake, but you only need a yard and a half. I love the play call by Doug Nussmeier.
Nussmeier, a new addition on the Michigan team this year. First year as offensive coordinator, spent the last couple of years as Alabama's offensive coordinator, where he tutored A.J. McCarron. Gardner just kind of improvising and just dumps it off to Norfleet, who's crushed at the 30. But a gain of 7 for Norfleet after Gardner was feeling pressure, still able to get it away for the gain.
What a touch pass by the quarterback here, because Jalen Smith, number 9, is all over it. Watch 23, Norfleet. Smith trails him. He's got to throw that up in the air, drop it right down the chimney, and a big hit at the end of that play. Number 80, Khalid Hill. Watch at the very end of the play. 80, Khalid Hill right there gets Trumbetti, the freshman. Watch this hit. Bang. Wow. That's football.
Gain of 7, 2nd and 3. And Gardner whips it out, and this time Norfleet will go nowhere. And that is Matthias Farley with a textbook tackle and a loss of 2.
Absolutely no hesitation by Matthias Farley on the bubble screen. Watch 41 just flash. Here he comes. Bang. Big time play. But Dan, sooner or later, you're going to see the patent go. In other words, they're going to fake bubble and try to get in behind. Notre Dame got beat on that route a week ago.
So 3rd down and 5 for Gardner.
Funchess is inside on the 3-man side. There's Funchess.
They'll move him around. A timeout called now by Michigan, and Hoke.
Charge timeout, Michigan. Their first timeout.
So the two teams have already burned 3 timeouts with still 6:16 left in the opening quarter. No score on a beautiful night in South Bend. Michigan and Notre Dame. This will be the 10th play of the drive as you look at the new offensive coordinator for Michigan. Former Alabama Crimson Tide OC. Instructed to really improve Devin Gardner, who had some inconsistencies down the stretch after lighting it up against Notre Dame last year. There's Funchess. Slotted left. Carriage in motion goes way out. Gardner steps up. Short of the first down. Will bring up 4th down. Jalen Smith, who's been all over the field tonight so far, met him.
Boy, I thought Gardner got out of this way too quickly. They had all kinds of people open on the front side. So if Gardner just looks over here, he's got 2 choices. But he sees a crack, takes it. Jalen Smith flies, man. That's a great play by Jalen Smith coming up. Quarterback got out of that way too early.
In the words of Van Gorder, make Gardner be a quarterback. Don't let his legs beat us. So far, the Irish keeping him under wraps. 46-yarder by Matt Weil is no good. And so the Irish come away with it unscathed. Big play by Jalen Smith. Weil off the mark, and we remain scoreless. And the last scheduled meeting between the Wolverines and Irish. Van Gorder liking what he sees so far. Subscribe and join the IrishIllustrated.com community, part of the Rivals.com network, for exclusive Irish recruiting news and team coverage. 42nd meeting and last on the schedule between the Wolverines and Irish, college football's oldest and original FBS rivalry. So here in 2014, it is Everett Golson at quarterback, and Cam McDaniel is now in the backfield. Golson to his left. The fake to McDaniel, and Golson over to Amir Carlisle. Pass is complete for a gain of 6.
Keep in mind that tackle was by Delonte Hollowell. 2 of Michigan's starting defensive backs are now out. Ramon Taylor has gone into the locker room. And remember, Jabril Peppers, their nickel, hasn't shown up yet tonight. He hurt an ankle a week ago.
And here is Cam McDaniel, his first carry of the night, just short of the first down marker. Mario Ojemudia of Michigan on the stop. McDaniel, part of the balanced attack last week. He's the senior, along with a couple of sophomore running backs. There's the first drive for Notre Dame. 6 plays, 311. Again, the 2 early timeouts that were burned.
Yeah, I'm not sure I've ever seen that. We spent some time with McDaniel yesterday, and I love what he said. Don't label me. He's got a huge chip on his shoulder.
It's a 3rd and short. And McDaniel picks up the first down for the Irish.
You know, I just mentioned I've never seen Doug Flutie. I have never seen 2 timeouts that quickly for an offense. Have you, number one? And secondly, how does that happen?
I think they're all sped up offensively right now. Everett's got real quick feet in that first drive. He rushed a couple quick throws, even the wide receiver screen. So they're a little bit fired up, a little too fired up. And Coach Kelly had a little talk with Everett on the sideline. He came back out of his coaching speed.
Steps up, fires over the middle, complete to C.J. Procyse. Gain of 19 for the junior out of Petersburg, Virginia.
What I like there is what Doug Flutie just said. I think he calmed it down. Play action out of the pistol, sets his feet. That's what I liked. He set the feet, he didn't hurry, and then he had an accurate throw, and they've got a little tempo now. Back out over the line of scrimmage. That's the first time I've seen a quarterback tonight take his time and do what he's supposed to do.
Big gain, Irish down at the Michigan 41. Golson steps up, has this pass with a little touch on it. Chris Brown was the intended receiver. Jordan Lewis might have drawn a flag on Brown.
And remember, Jordan Lewis is in the game because Ray Taylor's in the locker room. It's on the back side of a formation where it's one-on-one.
Pass interference. Defense number 26. 15 yards from the previous spot. Automatic. First down.
So a big penalty against Michigan. Another look.
Yeah, he's on the backside. It's one-on-one. Everett Golson saw that pre-snap. You can see all the infighting down the field. No doubt that there's a flag to be thrown. Jordan Lewis was hand fighting. Ball was in the air. Never turned around and looked for it till right there. Easy call.
See the third running back of the night for Notre Dame now. Greg Bryant gets his turn on 1st down and 10. Ball all the way up to the 26 of Michigan. And here is Bryant doing what he does best, spinning his way inside the 25. Brought down by Jake Ryan, the middle linebacker for the Wolverines. Short gain for Bryant. 8 carries, 71 yards, and his first collegiate touchdown last week against Rice.
The more I've talked to people in the Notre Dame community here in August to watch practice, here last week and then this week, they're so excited about his development. Was hurt last year as a true freshman, and when he sticks his foot in the ground and gets north, he's a difference maker.
Explosive cutter from Delray Beach, Florida. They fake it to him, and the slant route is complete to Amir Carlisle for another 1st down.
Exact same look, different receiver. Golson with his feet under him. Play action. Watch the feet get set, and the ball's out quickly. I talked to Matt LaFleur, the quarterback coach, before the game. He said his 2 favorite throws were from last week, were both in the pocket. And the message to Everett, wow, big hit. The message to Everett was, I know you can do the spontaneous things, but if you hang in the pocket and make NFL-style throws, we're going to be a better football team.
After the gain of 12, Irish set up at the 12.
Ronnie Stanley's communicating.
Play clock down again, and flag comes in. Wow.
And look at Brian Kelly.
Charge timeout, Notre Dame.
The third
and final timeout.
And final one. This is hard to believe.
Hey, Doug. Doug, from my perspective, and I hate to say this, but to me it's on the quarterback. The responsibility, even if the play comes in late, the quarterback's got to be aware all the time of where that play clock is.
Absolutely, no question about it, Mike. He's, like I said, he was a little excited early on, and sometimes that creates indecision in your mind. You're not sure, you're thinking way too fast. It did look like he slowed it down this drive, like you were talking about, with his feet. Much more deliberate in his throws and looks solid, and then this happens again.
Again, coming off virtually a flawless performance against Rice, where Kelly actually used the words, and I was very surprised. He was just electric, is how he called Golson's performance.
Now,
and he doesn't give praise to a lot of quarterbacks like that. You just look at Madison, the veteran coordinator for Michigan, who also had a stint for the Baltimore Ravens.
Yeah, I've known Coach Madison for a lot of years. When he was in Baltimore with the Ravens and John Harbaugh, he brought a lot of that back with him, and they'll bring 7 or 8 up. Which 5 are coming? It's a lot of pressure for a quarterback.
So after the 3rd and final timeout, 1st and 10 again here from the 12. Golson floated it up into the end zone, incomplete. He wanted Corey Robinson, and another flag comes in. Remember, Jordan Lewis was already called for a 1.
I like Golson's identification of the one-on-one matchups with no help. That time he's got his 6'4" wide receiver.
Pass interference. Defense number 26. The foul occurred in the end zone. By rule, the ball will be placed at the 2-yard line.
So 2 interference calls on Lewis.
And remember, Lewis is only in the game because Taylor's out, so they're attacking what they consider to be the weak link. He's late coming and getting that head turned around. Let's see it again. See, there's all the contact. It's an easy call. He's got to have more confidence to keep his hands off the offensive player with the ball in the air.
So from the 2 on 1st and goal, McDaniel gets inside the 1, 2nd and goal.
You notice who's in the game at tailback when they get in tight. It's Cam McDaniel.
Don't say it. Don't go that reliable, steady route thing, right?
He doesn't like the trustworthy, reliable running back. In his mind, he offers a lot more than that. And I tend to agree.
He says, I hate labels. I've always had to prove myself. And on second goal, his number is called, and McDaniel opens the scoring. An expectant father, McDaniel. He and his wife, Stephanie, saw their first sonogram of their child earlier this week and talked about it with him yesterday. He was over the moon about it, and he opens the scoring here on this beautiful Saturday night. 1-yard score for McDaniel on an 8-play, 71-yard drive, which was really keyed by a couple of interference calls on Lewis. Brinza with the extra point puts Notre Dame up 7-0. So they're out of timeouts in this first half, but they're up 7-0 as McDaniel gets the Irish on the board first. Watch every Notre Dame home game on your laptop, tablet, or smartphone. NBC Sports Live Extra with access to more than 1,000 live events, including Notre Dame football. You won't miss a single moment. It's NBC Sports Live Extra. Watch the biggest events anywhere, anytime. Tough ticket. Last one. Last scheduled meeting between these two storied schools as Brinza, with him and his Irish, up 7-0. Dennis Norfleet watches it sail over his head. And so the Wolverines will come out and try it again with 1:50 remaining in the opening quarter. Notre Dame up 7-0. Gorgeous early evening. Downtown skyline of Chicago.
Wow.
Out of the distance. Beautiful shot. Windy City, just a little more than 100 miles away. Talked about this being the last scheduled game between these two schools, which began in 1887. As we venture up the timeline, 33-year hiatus. They met a couple more times in the early 40s, and then yet another 35-year dormant stage. And they've met almost every year since 1978. It all adds up to Michigan leading the series 24-16-1. And again, Kelly 1-3 against Michigan. That lone win coming to the BCS title game run a couple of years ago. So here are the Wolverines trailing 7-0. And this is our first look at Davion Smith's two-pronged attack for Michigan. Told you about Derek Green. Davion Smith, in the words of Brady Hoke, would rather run over you.
Yeah, and I think that's what we're probably going to see right now is some power football with Davion Smith. That was just an old-fashioned counter play, and they got real good push, 5 yards on first down. And I think, Dan, one of the points of emphasis in the offseason with the hiring of Nussmeier was a return to physicality for this Michigan offense.
Physical and explosive was the mantra.
And I'd also be looking for number 1.
Second and 5. They give it to Smith again, and Smith for first down yardage. Finally tripped up out of bounds by Elijah Shoemate, but not before a gain of 10.
Now there's a true freshman left tackle playing right there for the University of Michigan. First time in the school's history that a true freshman started the opening game on the offensive line. Mason Cole, 6'5", 292 pounds, from East Lake High School in Tarpon Springs, Florida. When you think about the history and tradition of this program, it's either means he's really special or that offensive line is not what it usually is.
Well, it was 102nd in the nation in rushing last year. One of the big areas that they want to improve on, and Funchess is in the clear. 6'5", 230, rumbling all the way down to the Notre Dame 35. Elijah Shoemate finally brought him down, but a gain of 26 for Funchess.
Yeah, they tried to drop number 45, Aquara, off. Now remember, he's a defensive lineman. This is a zone blitz concept. He got lost. Funchess went to the open spot, and you can see what a load he is with the ball in his hands.
Funchess trying to keep that great tradition of #1 jerseys going in Michigan. He asked to wear it. He used to wear 87. And Devin Funchess in his second game wearing that #1 jersey. Already 3 catches for 40 yards. He had 7 catches last week. Whoop. Flags come in as the ball was never snapped on the ground.
Like the left side.
Snap infraction. Offense, number 60. 5-yard penalty, still first down.
Jack Miller called for the infraction. Well, there are the great tradition of #1 jerseys for Michigan and some of the great names, and it was Funchess who knew all about them. He came to Hoke 2 weeks before the first game, asked Coach, can I have #1? Coach said, I'll think about it. Then he said, Hoke, do you deserve it? Tell me who wore them. And Funchess immediately clicked off all the #1 greats that have worn that jersey in the past for Michigan. As that brings us to the end of the first quarter. Notre Dame leading 7-0. As we'll get you back to Notre Dame Stadium after these messages from your local NBC station. You're watching Notre Dame football on NBC, presented by Under Armour.
First quarter, Devin Funchess was targeted 3 times and already made a big difference in this football game. 6'5", 230 pounds. He's a matchup nightmare. Short catch turns it into a little bit bigger game. They love bubble screen to him. He'll come back to that early and often. And finally, on a little zone blitz, he finds a soft area, and then it becomes a game breaker. 3 targets, 3 catches, 41 yards. Notre Dame better find a way to deal with this guy.
Broke a 45-year-old school record last year for the most yards by a tight end in a single season. But again, he's been moved to the wideout position, and he's proven to be tough to defend so far. 1st and 15. Michigan keeps it on the ground as we see Derek Green again.
You know, you just told the Devin Funchess story before we went to break about the jersey. My favorite part of the story was he wore number 87, which was the Ron Kramer honor jersey. And apparently when Coach said he could wear #1, he said, but Coach, I got to call the Kramer family and ask permission to go from 87 to 1. He talked to Ron Kramer's son, said, I really feel much better about a wide receiver number like #1. Is it okay with you? I thought that showed some real maturity by this kid.
Yeah, he wanted to get the Kramer family blessing to switch from the 87. 2nd down and 9. They'll bring up 3rd and long as Green gets maybe a couple. Romeo Okwara up front on the stop. Gain of 2.
You know, I just watched 2 true freshmen run onto the field for Notre Dame. Number 23, Drew Tranquil, and number 43, Colin Hill. Now, these kids, that kid right there, 43, has never played a college football game, yet he's starting in their dime package tonight. Why? Because he's one of the best edge rushers on their team. So you're going to see a lot of Tranquil and a lot of Hill in Notre Dame's dime.
Big key down here, 3rd and 7 for the Wolverines. Play clock down to 2. They get it off. Gardner feels the pressure from the right side. Pass incomplete. He wanted Funchess. It'll bring up 4th down.
Notre Dame brought a blitz off the edge. Good protection. Gardner stayed in. You see 41 Farley going. Look at the coverage, though, by Shumate. That ball should have been caught, but it was tight coverage by Shumate. Watch the hand come through. Did he break it up? No. Should it have been caught? Yes.
So Michigan and Matt Weil into attempt a 48-yarder. He missed earlier from 46 yards. And this one doesn't get off the ground barely. So Weil is 0 for 2. And Notre Dame keeps the Wolverines off the scoreboard.
You know, it's brand new turf. I've asked several of the kickers and coaches that does it sit down just a little bit on that turf. But look at his left foot. It slid into it. It's a low trajectory, barely clears the offensive line.
Hard to see if anybody got a hand on it.
Yeah, but it was low. It didn't matter. It was too low anyway.
And look at the left plant leg a while.
We saw that a little bit last week. I thought the Rice kicker slid a couple times. Brand new turf.
So 13:25, just starting the second quarter here. Greg Bryant gets the handoff from Golson and weaving his way, picking up a pretty good gain after it didn't look like much. Jordan Lewis on the stop after a gain of 6. So it's been a running back by committee so far. Golson rolling out to the near side, pass complete to Fuller for the first down.
Now remember, Fuller had a bobble and a drop on the first couple of series. Not a totally accurate throw there by Golson, but a completion, and now they've got tempo. This is what head coach Brian Kelly wants: pace and tempo offensively.
Notre Dame up at the 46 for the fresh set of downs. Golson coming up to the line.
Blitz.
And a handoff inside to Bryant. Moves the pile close to midfield. As you look at Brian Kelly, and you got the feeling when we talked to him yesterday that part of the coaching process this week was kind of deflecting all of the praise that was on his team. It was a good win for the Irish, but again, they take the huge step up in talent from this Michigan squad tonight.
Look, it's a benchmark game for both teams. You know, Appalachian State didn't provide any kind of game for Michigan. Same with Rice and Notre Dame. We're going to find out who can play tonight.
2nd and 7. Golson was a little high on the target, who was Ben Koyak.
Play action. I thought he hurried it just a little bit too much. He didn't set his feet this time. Now watch what happens after the play action. It's a little pop pass. Is Brian Monet in his face? Absolutely. But I thought he hurried it just a little bit. Got a little too much air under it. But he is under significant pressure.
So that'll bring up 3rd and 7. Irish trying to keep this drive alive at their own 49. Golson steps up and delivers it.
Drop.
And it's incomplete. It appeared that Chris Brown had a shot at it, but unable to connect, and the Irish will have to punt it away.
In the pocket, big time throw right here by Golson. I like Golson finding him right there, by the way, and shaking his hand, but I love this throw. Watch him just set his feet and rip it. Throws it to the inside, away from the corner, and Chris Brown has to make this catch.
Yeah, that had a little steam on it, didn't it?
Had a lot of steam on it.
There is Norfleet awaiting the Brinza punt. And he calls for a fair catch. High hanging, good punt by Brinza. And so Michigan will start inside its 10-yard line at about the 9 when we come back. Notre Dame up 7-0 just into the second quarter. Notre Dame football is being brought to you by Mercedes-Benz. Experience truly great engineering today at your authorized dealer. By Coca-Cola Zero. Zero means it's game day. By Discover. We treat you like you treat you. And by Geico, 15 minutes can save you 15% on car insurance. Great images through the years of this great rivalry between Michigan and Notre Dame, and an unbelievable night as you look at the dome. Aerial coverage provided by Goodyear. Everything we've learned making tires that go the distance inspires what we roll into yours. Goodyear, more driven. Night expected to dip into the 50s tonight here on this first weekend of September. And look at that sunset here on the campus of Notre Dame. Michigan sets up deep in its own territory. You'll see a lot of this. Gardner rolling out. And this pass is complete to J.U. Chesson, sophomore from St. Louis, for a good gain of 16 to kind of get Michigan out of that hole.
Yeah, 6'3", 197-pound sophomore. He gets the corner. Cody Riggs turned. Once you've got him turned, as long as you throw this thing on time with some accuracy, it's all over.
Devin Gardner, out of high school, was rated the #1 dual threat quarterback in the country. He was even a wide receiver for a time in 2012 when the former Michigan quarterback Denard Robinson was hurt. Multi-talented, dangerous on the ground and through the air. And here is Gardner to the near side. That one is complete for the first down to Chesson again.
Boy, is that a big-time throw. Now, I was at the Manning Academy 2 years ago and watched him throw the football. This is a far hash throw, meaning it has to go all the way across the field. He's throwing off his back foot. Look at the accuracy and the arm strength to get it there. That's a big-time throw. And, you know, the story goes 2 years at the Manning Academy, and he sent a handwritten thank you note to all 4 Mannings, Archie, Peyton, Eli, and Cooper, thanking them for the opportunity to be a counselor at their camp.
Impressive. Classy. Now 5th-year senior Gardner with that quick hit to the right side. It's to Chesson again, but Notre Dame is there to meet him. For a slight loss, Shoemate and the Florida transfer Riggs over there on the coverage.
Yeah, aggressive play by Riggs on the bubble. You know, I'm sensing Doug Flutie that both these quarterbacks are starting to calm down, get their feet under them, start to deliver the football like we expect. And Doug, that last throw by Gardner, that far hash throw, was big time.
No question about it. He had pressure in his face. That's why he stayed on his back foot. And both these two-dimensional quarterbacks are becoming one-dimensional, standing in the pocket. Gardner's completion versus zone blitz was excellent.
Funches is up high, top of your screen. Gardner was looking this way, but can't get Funches. And that'll bring up 3rd down and 10.
That is a Brian Van Gorder NFL-style overload blitz. You're going to see 22 Shoemate come at the last minute. Just watch over here. Everybody's coming.
And Smith, 235-pounder, locked in on the 230-pound Funches. Offensive coordinator Doug Nussmeier, what is on the play call for this 3rd and 10? You would think Funches, who is split to the top of the screen, who already has 3 catches and a timeout call by Michigan. So Nussmeier, Hope going to talk things over. 10:05 remaining in the opening half. Key 3rd down coming up when we come back. Michigan trying to keep its drive alive at its own 39. Key 3rd down and 10 play here. Gardner having one last word with Funches. Set up on the left side.
Yeah, you better identify Funches.
There he is in motion. Comes back. Gardner gets some pressure from Sheldon Day. Able to escape that, but not.
Wow. That's speed.
The rest of the Notre Dame defense, loss of 2.
Yeah, Sheldon Day forces him out of the pocket, but speed kills. And Notre Dame's trying to get more and more speed on the ball on defense. There's Sheldon Day, and now watch 43, Colin Hill from the inside out, and then Drew Tranquil, 23. So first it's Day, then it's 43, one freshman, then it comes 23, the other freshman. And what they're trying to do is get more speed on the field in their dime package.
So Will Hogrup with his first punt of the game for Michigan. And this is Cody Riggs, and just when they came off a great special teams performance, it is on Wallow, who's able to recover it after Riggs bobbled it. Riggs had a couple of 20-plus punt returns for good gains last week against Rice.
You know, we talked about them being much more aggressive in the punt return game a week ago, but that's inexcusable. Onawalu's there to pick it up, but Cody Riggs has got to use, you know, if you're going to play shortstop and pick it up, you better field it cleanly.
Last week, they returned 5 punts for 80 yards. Notre Dame had 106 yards the entire season last year.
Right.
So the first early bobble by special teams for Notre Dame sets them up at the 20 here, as Onwualu was able to recover it, and Folston comes up the middle for not much.
You know, both of these mobile quarterbacks like space. They like to escape outside, preferably to the right, sometimes to their left. Neither of them likes to step up in the pocket. So what we're seeing from both coordinators is a lot of pressure off the edge. It's designed to keep the quarterback in that pocket.
Golson completed passes to 7 different receivers last week. He's already connected with 4. And on 2nd and 8, he connects with Fuller for the first down. 13-yard gain for Fuller. Blake Countess on the coverage for Michigan.
Another good throw. Didn't really like the double catch. Again, bobbled and brought in by Fuller.
3 catches, 21 yards in the early going for Fuller. There's a score, USC beating Stanford 13-10 earlier today. Of course, the Trojans and Cardinal on the Notre Dame schedule upcoming. Ben Koyak close to another first down.
And again, they picked up the edge pressure without a problem. He came back the other way to Koyak. Big boy Koyak. He's got great size. Notre Dame coaches think he can be another in a great tradition of Notre Dame tight ends. He goes back into the 1960s.
So second down and 1. And they give us to Folston. If he stops short, it's just going to depend on where they mark it. Seems to be right on the first down line.
Good hit.
Oh, they're saying he's nudged across, it looks like. First down for Notre Dame.
Wow. I thought Matthew Godden, number 99, made contact and pushed him back.
You know, you can get wrapped up in this rivalry, and rightly so, as you're going to see Folston bang in here.
There's the hit right there, and he goes no further.
But you can't lose sight of the fact that this could have huge implications depending on how good the seasons are for the Irish and Wolverines later down the stretch. And that incomplete.
Hey,
to Carlisle for another first down, gain of 12.
Amir Carlisle was kind of the buried guy on their depth chart. He was playing tailback a year ago, fumbled against Purdue, and we didn't see much of him the rest of the year. It's an out, up, and out. Sprint right, look at the hands catch, and drag the foot. That's a big-time play by Carlisle. And remember, look at the catch. Beautiful. This kid was recruited by USC, went there for a year, transferred to Notre Dame. There's talent. It's just starting to surface now.
Gone through some injuries, which he's fought through as well. Here's Golson. That never looked good from the start.
Yeah. Brennan Byer, defensive end, stayed home, forced him back inside, and Jake Ryan cleaned it up. And Jake Ryan, man, you want to talk about a disruptive football player. This is his 32nd start for Michigan. The NFL teams love him as a linebacker. He's 6'3", 236, 7.5 sacks in his career, 5 forced fumbles. Highly disruptive guy. Hurt his knee a year and a half ago, but he looks like he moves real well to me again.
So second down and long for Golson. Play clock getting down there again as Golson's looking to the sidelines, and here comes the pressure up the middle, and they give it to Folston. And Folston short of the first down. Close to the Wolverine 35, gain of 6.
Yeah, I can't tell if he's getting the plays in late from the sidelines, but we've had 3 timeouts. They've used an awful lot of time. He's still looking over there, and he's going, oh, hurry up, hurry up. He knows he's got next. He snapped that with about 2 seconds left.
3rd and 3. Going right to his left and not able to connect with Procise. 4th down.
Big decision here. Probably too far for a field goal. You don't get much out of a punt. And you can look at Brian Kelly. He's going right to that play sheet.
As the ball is at the 37. Mid-50s for a field goal attempt it would be. So on 4th and 3. The Irish trying to pick up a new set of downs here. They've got Folston in the back.
One-on-one down at the bottom.
And Golson gets the first down. That's complete to Fuller for a gain of 11. So on 4th and 3, Notre Dame keeps this drive alive.
And it's Fuller's job to win inside against the corner when you run a slant pattern. The wideout's got to win inside. He does a nice job of taking Countess up the field before he comes under. Look at that. He takes him up, comes back under. That's a win. And where did quarterback put the ball? Right on number 7.
Ball at the 25 of Michigan. Notre Dame already leading 7-0. 5.5 to go here in the half. And right down the middle to Robinson for his first catch of the game. And the big 6'4" sophomore hauls it in from Golson for a big gain of 24. First and goal.
Wow, that was a beautiful throw and catch. Robinson, he wins to the inside. There's no safety help. He beats Channing Stribling. Remember, there's 2 corners hurt. Stribling's listed as a third-team player. That is a beautiful throw in the pocket with strength and accuracy.
Robinson almost got in.
Wow. Those last couple throws by number 5 are big-time throws. Hey, Doug, I'm sitting up here watching this thing. Those last 2 throws set his feet, and that ball came out really beautifully.
It doesn't get any better than both of those throws. The 4th down play, they would have loved to have had a timeout to talk about it.
Yeah,
but that throw on the slant route was beautiful timing-wise, and that skinny post there set his feet, hitched, and turned it loose.
Yeah, I was going to say, he came really close to getting in, so they're going to take another look at this.
Look, there's the football. It never gets in.
Yep.
There's no doubt that's not a touchdown.
From that angle, you're right. It not.
Look, the elbow and the ball are down. Doesn't cross. Real close. See if the knee goes down. I can't tell if that knee went down earlier, but either way, there's the point of the football. About the half-yard line.
And see that splint on the right hand of Corey Robinson. Fractured it in the practice week leading up to the opener. Put a pin in the right thumb and played last week against Rice, and said after getting used to it, it doesn't affect him too much.
The knee doesn't touch until right there with the elbow. It looks like somewhere around the half to 3/4 yard line.
After further review, the ruling on the field is confirmed. First down.
Got the ball spotted all the way back at the 3.
I think they felt like that knee touched early. I didn't see it. Either way, I don't get the 3-yard line.
Yeah, interesting spot.
Yeah.
But Notre Dame with a first and goal, trying to add to its lead. And Folston gets about a yard up to the 2. First and goal.
Yeah, I'd kind of like to go back to that replay.
See if we can figure out why it was spotted at the 3-yard line there.
Here they go.
And Golson's just going to keep it, and he stopped short. 3rd and goal. Let's go back to the Robinson spot here.
Now, you'll see how closely the knee goes down right there, but it looks like the arm comes under it and it never touches.
Yeah, it appeared they saw that left knee.
There.
That didn't touch. It didn't touch.
I don't think you could saw it. You see the hand slide underneath it. I think that should have been a half-yard line spot.
So now it's 3rd and goal. Ball at the 1.
Down to 9, 8.
Golson throwing it to the end zone to Amir Carlisle.
Amir Carlisle is having the night of his life.
And Golson pretty sharp as well on this drive. 6 for 7, 68 yards.
He runs away from Hollowell. Very quick and explosive laterally. Good throw. And remember, Jabril Peppers, the normal nickel, has not played it down tonight.
4th catch for Carlisle. And brings it, pumps it through to make it 14-0 Notre Dame. So despite a questionable spot, Notre Dame able to get in on 3rd and goal. Golson to Carlisle for the 2nd score to put the Irish up by 14. Well, September 22nd, Pharrell and Gwen Stefani join the one, the only, the voice. The new season begins Monday, September 22nd on NBC. So the Irish off the 1-yard touchdown pass from Golson to Carlisle take a 14-0 lead. And there is the offensive coordinator from Michigan, Doug Nussmeier, talking things over with Devin Gardner. Nussmeier working from the field. Normally in his coaching career he's been upstairs, but been a lot talked about between Nussmeier wanting to make sure that he's got direct communication with his fifth-year senior quarterback Gardner. And the Wolverines in a 14-0 hole. By the way, that was Carlisle's first touchdown reception of his career. And burns his leg big as the Wolverines will come out to the 25-yard line, trailing 14-0. Well, this great rivalry continues, and a great quarterback matchup. Exciting, explosive. Golson and Gardner.
I definitely want to leave a bitter taste in their mouth when they think back on this.
Golson's going to come out and run it and leap into the end zone for the touchdown.
The best feeling is beating somebody in their own stadium when everybody's against you.
Gardner cuts upfield. Touchdown, Michigan!
Numbers for the respective quarterbacks, Gardner and Golson, as Notre Dame has a 14-0 lead. Gardner, who was 13 of 14 last week in the win against Appalachian State, begins this drive with a handoff to Norfleet, and Norfleet with a good gain. Chased down there by Jalen Smith. Gain of 7 for Norfleet.
Two of their biggest runs so far have come from Norfleet, wide receiver, either in motion or that time out of the backfield.
Second down and 3. Gardner timing is knocked down out of his hands, and he's lucky to just get it back. Put the ball all the way back to the 15-yard line. Romeo Okwara, loss of 17.
Immediate pressure up the middle is what bothers most quarterbacks, and that time the offensive center from Michigan is going to get walked right back into the lap of the quarterback. That is a great job by Jerron Jones. And then Okwara.
So Michigan in a huge hole here now with 2:40 left in the opening half. And Michigan already 0 for 4 on third down conversions. This one 3rd and 20. Taking another look at this play.
Yeah, it looked to me like he was trying to throw a pass and it got knocked down. Watch the center, Jack Miller, get jacked all the way back, and then right there, that's the old cup rule right there. Gardner tried to bring it down. He couldn't control it. Watch it. He wants to hold on to it right here. Jerron Jones gets a piece, the ball comes loose. So is it an incomplete pass or a fumble is what they're reviewing right now.
Obviously for the Wolverines it would bode well if it was an incomplete pass, because he was all the way back for a loss of 17.
I think the important thing there was Jerron Jones, his continuing development as a redshirt sophomore, showing power and an ability to push that center right back and collapse the pocket.
Jones, number 94, providing the pressure up the middle. 6'5", 315 pounds, pressuring back into Gardner.
See, Gardner's bringing it down back to his body, and I thought Jerron Jones slapped it away. And if he slaps it away and gets a piece, then it is indeed a fumble.
After further review, the ruling on the field of a fumble recovered by the quarterback is confirmed.
I think that's the right call.
So it stands.
And that's a big-time play by 94, Jerron Jones. Okay, 3rd and a whole bunch here with 2:37 and rolling. So Notre Dame's looking for a stop and a punt. They have no timeouts left because they burned all of them.
There's Funches to the right.
Communication issues.
Gardner fakes it to Funches and then keeps it on the ground.
Yep. Draw and screen are common plays, 3rd and long.
Justice Hayes with his first carry of the game, gain of 10.
And Dan, this is where the 3 timeouts come into play. 2 minutes and counting. You're going to get the ball back with good field goal or good field position, and you've got no timeouts to use. Really makes it difficult.
So this is Hogrip, who was the Big Ten punter of the year a couple of years ago before he sat out the entire season last year for an undisclosed team violation. But an excellent punter. This one a low kick. And Riggs able to field this one and get loose up close to the 45-yard line. So a 12-yard return for Riggs, brought down by Jake Ryan, the middle linebacker, doubling up on special teams. So Notre Dame has 1:24 left, but as you mentioned, no timeouts. Time now for the Mercedes-Benz top performances. In 1989, top-ranked Notre Dame traveled to Ann Arbor for a matchup with #2 Michigan in the memorable game for Irish fans. Rocket Ismail returned to 2 consecutive kickoffs for touchdowns, leading the Fighting Irish to that 24-19 victory. That's Mercedes-Benz top performances. Great performances by players, great games down the stretch. In fact, 18 of the last 29 games between Michigan and Notre Dame decided by 7 points or less, including 4 of the last 5, 3 of the last 5 in the final 27 seconds of regulation. Notre Dame here with just 1:20 to go in the first half. Golson on the run, throws it away, 2nd and 10.
Good job getting rid of that football there.
Reminder that the Discover Card halftime report comes your way. Carolyn Mano in our NBC studio. She'll have all the scores and highlights from a busy day in college football, plus Liam McHugh, Doug Flutie, Hines Ward down on the field breaking down the first half. And a look ahead to the NFL matchup Sunday night with Bob Costas as he sat down with Broncos quarterback Peyton Manning. All coming up on the Discover Card halftime report. Notre Dame without any timeouts, burning 2 very early and then a 3rd. Will Fuller hauls it in for the first down.
Keep in mind, in college football, on the first down, you get the clock stoppage, and you've got to get ready to go again when they reset it.
So 1:16, and they wind it.
Good job getting ready quickly.
And Golson with a nice check down to Cam McDaniel. I believe he picked up the first down. Yeah, gain of 11.
Yeah, and that last effort by McDaniel gets the first down, stops the clock, and gets them real close to field goal distance.
You get about that 32-yard line, which they're close to now. That brings in about a 50-ish yard field goal attempt for Brinza and McDaniel, which they totally fooled the Michigan defense. Everybody was going this way, and McDaniel was going the other way, so he's able to gain 4.
Watch the angle he takes, too, on this sprint draw. He's going to go right for the sidelines. Why? He's got an awareness of situational football. Get out of bounds, stop the clock. He picked up 4 or 5 yards. Smart football. No timeouts left.
McDaniel with one of Notre Dame's 2 touchdowns. 2nd and 6. 49 seconds and counting, and Golson trying to make something happen. And then he connects, and it is complete right at the marker to Koyak. Vintage Golson there, gain of 6.
Frank Clark can't believe it. One of the best players in the Big Ten from the left side of your screen, thinks he has him. Little pirouette to his left, eyes downfield, keeps the play alive, and Koyak at the end, does he stay in? That, I think he's out. I think they got to snap it quickly or they're going to stop play.
They get right up, and there we go, taking another look at that.
The ruling on the previous play was a completed pass at the sideline. That ruling is under further review.
Good job by the booth official recognizing, and that ball's going to come back. I don't think there's any doubt, right? There's the throw. Koyak's right foot on the line. That ball's out. Unless they can establish that left foot in and possession prior to the right foot touching, which I don't think they can. That right foot's out.
appeared both feet were down, but the right foot was out of bounds when Koyak made the catch.
You know, it still doesn't change for me the continued development of this quarterback. Somehow he gets out of the pocket, goes to his left, the eyes stay down the field, and he makes a play. Look at that. That's cool.
The play is never dead when you have Golson at the controls. Latest examples of that multiple times last week in the victory over Rice. Waiting for the official word on the play, but again it appeared Koyak was out, and again Kyle Brinza is poised to perhaps attempt a field goal. He's got a big leg. I mean, certainly where the ball is spotted right now at the 23-yard line, well within his range. He's got 4 career 50-plus field goal to his credit, 4 for 5 from 50-plus as you look at Brinza.
The thing I don't understand, he's 4 for 5 from 50-plus career, but he's only 11 for 17, 30 to 39, and 7 for 14, 40 to 49. So he's more accurate.
After further review,
away.
the ruling on the field stands. Completed catch at the sideline. Third down.
They had to decide that the left foot established him down before the right foot touched, but I didn't see it that way at all.
Oh, I mean, it just didn't appear that the left was down before the right was out of bounds.
And I know to overturn you need compelling video evidence, but to me that was compelling. Dan, I'm 0 for 2 today.
So third and that short for the first down, as it was a catch, but not for the first down. Golson going for the end zone, and a leaping grab made by Fuller. Right in the corner, Blake Countess was draped on him, but Fuller with a 24-yard grab from Golson for the touchdown.
I love the identification pre-snap by the quarterback. The safety was in the middle of the field. He knew where he was going before the ball was ever snapped.
So Notre Dame, with Brinza's extra point here, 21-0. Golson on the drive, very sharp, 4 for 5, 52 yards.
The free safety's in the middle of the field. He cannot get over here, especially if Everett Golson holds him with his eyes. From behind, there's the safety in the middle. Everett Golson comes late, and a beautiful throw. Coverage was pretty good by Countess, but watch the route by Fuller, who's one of the fastest players in college football, creates separation. The ball's thrown high, gets up in the air. The receiver does his job. The quarterback makes the decision pre-snap and throws an accurate ball, and this is what's cool. Look at the excitement that these guys have.
Second touchdown pass of the night for Golson, as 3 different Irish players have scored. McDaniel, Fuller, Carlisle. And Notre Dame in command against Michigan.
How about Golson? 16 for 21, 169 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. Beautiful night for the kid.
And Norfleet with no chance to bring it out. So 34 ticks of the clock left in this opening half. Notre Dame fans fired up. Why not? Their team up 21-0. And by all accounts, Mike, this was going to be, well, the early season gauge for both the Irish and the Michigan Wolverines off of the lopsided wins last week. What is Notre Dame telling you right now, up 21-0?
I mean, the difference is Everett Golson. 2 years ago when they beat Michigan with Tommy Rees, it was 13-6. And no disrespect to that team, but it was like pulling teeth. This year, with that kid at quarterback, anything's possible.
See if Devin Gardner can do here in the waning seconds. Incomplete, wanted Funchess. So far, a pretty ordinary night for Gardner. He hasn't exactly been the dangerous multi-threat that he can be as he listens to Nussmeier over there, who's pretty intense as the offensive coordinator for Michigan.
Yeah, and Jerron Jones was draped all over him again. They're getting good pressure. They're keeping him in the pocket. His numbers are pretty good. He's 9 for 12. But let's face it, Michigan hasn't had many offensive snaps in the first half. There's a hole.
Gardner down the middle of the field, incomplete. That was Norfleet. Look who's on the sidelines. Tommy Rees, who was the quarterback for Notre Dame all of last year with Everett Golson out for the one-year academic suspension and was such a key for the Irish in the run to the BCS title game a couple of years ago. He's staying over at Nick Martin's house, the Notre Dame center. They've always been good friends. Tommy Rees taken in the game here. And a part of the Irish faithful who have to be absolutely pumped with Notre Dame up 21-0. This is Justice Hayes close to the first down marker.
You know, Dan, I think when you go in the locker room at halftime, if you're Michigan and you're self-scouting, you've got to say, why aren't we trying to force the ball to Funchess more often? When we've thrown it to him, we've been successful. Notre Dame's not doing anything special to take him out of the game.
Yeah, Funchess has been stuck on that 3 catches for quite some time. Gardner deep down the sidelines, incomplete. He wanted Chesson. It was Cody Riggs step for step with him on the far sideline.
How about Cody Riggs, a transfer from Florida, a graduate, taking grad courses in the School of Business here at Notre Dame. Playing corner last year at Florida in the SEC, he was a safety. He's played nickel. I think his best position is nickel. But because of Kavari Russell gone due to academics, this kid stepped up and playing pretty well.
And again, no change in that ongoing story. The 5 players not participating in football-related activities in front of hearings to eventually decide their fate. 2nd down and 10. Gardner unable to connect there with Norfleet again. And that will do it for the opening half. Everett Golson was 16 of 21. Couple of touchdown passes for 169 yards. And in the last scheduled meeting between the Michigan Wolverines and the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, Wolverines are in a deep hole, down 3 touchdowns. Let's go down to Catherine.
All right, Dan, thank you. Coach, an impressive scoring drive with no timeouts to end the half. How would you evaluate Everett Golson's performance?
Well, he threw the ball very well. I thought he was poised. You know, they did some things that I think, you know, changed the tempo a little bit for him. I think it calmed him down a little bit, and I think he made some nice plays.
You managed to keep a high-powered offense in Michigan scoreless in the first half. How did you do it defensively?
Well, you know, at first we couldn't get him to 3rd down. I thought getting him in the 3rd down, mixing some things up, giving him a number of different looks on 3rd down helped us.
Coach, thank you very much. Dan?
Kelly and the Irish up big, 21-zip. Halftime here at Notre Dame Stadium. Plenty ahead. Stay tuned for the Discover Card halftime report as we're going to send you to Carolyn Mano in our NBC studio. Notre Dame 21, Michigan nothing at the half.
We're playing Notre Dame. That rivalry is a different kind of breed.
And one last time against Michigan. Here come the Irish.
Michigan doesn't like us. We don't like them. It's not a secret.
Norfleet, who's crushed.
It's always a dogfight. Every time we play them, it's a dogfight, and what else could you want?
McDaniel opens the scoring. Michigan in a huge hole.
Amir Carlisle is having the night of his life.
The best feeling is beating somebody in their own stadium when everybody's against you.
Who will have the bragging rights for the next couple of years? That's what really matters. I guarantee Notre Dame will.
Two of the mightiest programs in the history of the sport. Michigan, the all-time leader in wins in college football with 911. Notre Dame third in that category with 875. A look at the first half stats. Notre Dame football and NBC presented by Under Armour. Rushing yards pretty even. 21-0 though in favor of the Irish. 42nd meeting and last on the schedule. Notre Dame has won 5 of the last 7 at home, including the last one a couple of years ago. That is when Michigan turned it over 6 times in that 13-6 loss, but clean game from a turnover perspective. 21-0.
Yeah, this has been domination both sides of the line of scrimmage by Notre Dame in the first half.
And Michigan will have its hands on the football first. Brinza is through the end zone, and the Wolverines will begin the second half at the 25-yard line as we go down to Catherine Tappan.
All right, Dan, thank you. I spoke to Michigan head coach Brady Hoke coming out of the half, and he said he actually thought his quarterback and offense were playing well in the first half. The difference was that he said they need to slow down Notre Dame defensively. He said they needed to play tighter coverage against Notre Dame. I asked him if Notre Dame threw many surprises. He said, nope, not in that first half, guys.
Hoke, 20-2 at home, a much different story. 6-8 on the road, and he's in a 21-0 hole. Gardner wheeling out to his right, being chased by Isaac Rochelle, and Gardner is able to elude him and turn it into a good gain. Just short of the first down, but a big gain of 9 for Gardner, so a good start for the Wolverines.
Yeah, and you know, they came out looking to get Norfleet deep, and real nice job man coverage by Matthias Farley, but that's the athletic ability of Devin Gardner. The route wasn't there, you tuck it, pick up 9.
So second down and short. Michigan shut out in the first half. And picking up the first down is Derek Green. Not only has Hoke never won a road game versus a ranked opponent, he's 0-4 against Notre Dame, Michigan State, and Ohio State. Big opponents on Michigan's schedule. As you take a look at his career, it has gotten worse as the years have gone on. The big Sugar Bowl win, the 11-2 to get things going. A really good start for Hoke, but then again, it's been a very different story on the road for Hoke and the Wolverines. Ball at the 36. Gardner hanging in the pocket, steps up, the pressure gets to him, but he gets away from it and gets across the 40, still short of the first down, but Gardner turning something out of nothing in a gain of 6.
Yeah, the freshman defensive end, Trombetti, is working on Brayton right over here. I thought he was going to get the sack on the edge. I'm sorry, it was on the tight end. Right there, I thought he had him, but the athletic ability of Gardner makes something happen. Picks up 6 or 7 yards. Notre Dame trying to force him to play quarterback in the pocket. So far, we've seen his legs twice on the first couple of plays make a difference.
And this play clock is close to running out. Just gets it off, and he gives it to Green, and he's stopped behind the line of scrimmage by Jalen Smith. First outside linebacker to start as a freshman in some 18 years last year, and just learning the maneuvers of the inside play on the defense for Notre Dame this year.
The right tackle's trying to cut him off. No shot whatsoever. He sees it, he trusts his eyes, and he goes. This kid's one of the most gifted linebackers in college football. About 6'3", 235. Dan, he runs around a 4.5 40. He's as fast at 235 as most wideouts.
Van Gorder loves him, but he does say he's still not totally comfortable in that new inside position. 3rd and 7 for Michigan. Gardner steps up, and it's intercepted. Max Redfield on the run for Notre Dame, and he's brought down inside the 40.
Yeah, I'm not sure why he didn't see Redfield. This is an NFL style zone blitz. House is rocking. See number 9, watch him pull out. It's a zone blitz. He's going out. The safety's right in the middle of the field. Gardner forces it. Now remember, we talked about his inconsistency. Stares it down, Last year, he threw 10 interceptions in the first 6 games. Now, he lit it up against Notre Dame. He lit it up against Ohio State. But the critics have been on him about consistency, and that's an example why.
First career interception for the sophomore Max Redfield from Mission Viejo, California. And Notre Dame looking for more. Starting their first series of this second half in Michigan territory, this is Greg Bryant.
You know, one of the comments I heard around Notre Dame's building this week was the safety position had to play better. Remember last week, Dan, we were critical. The breakdowns, Matthias Farley, Redfield, all those guys with the breakdowns with Shoemate. And what happens this week? They've played much better. They've been aggressive. They've played fast. And then Redfield makes the big play.
Gain of less than 1 for Bryant, so it's 2nd down and 9. Whistles come in and stop the play as a flag is thrown.
False start. Offense number 79. 5-yard penalty, still 2nd down.
It's on the right tackle, Steve Elmer.
Elmer had 4 starts last year at right guard. He's kicked out to tackle. It's a bit of an adjustment. He's used to being a mauler. He's got to use his feet rather than his hands. Better game tonight.
Very first penalty of the night comes against Notre Dame in the early going of the second half. Golson to the air and almost a one-handed grab there by Chris Brown, incomplete. And that'll bring up 3rd and long.
Ball get out quickly.
Gardner chatting things over on the sideline after the turnover and the pick by Redfield.
I think Notre Dame has to look at this as a 2-down proposition. Try to get at least half on this one, and he can go for it on 4th down.
Or perhaps get Brinza into field goal range. Golson just rockets one. Procise isn't able to hang on. 4th and 14.
And Procise was open. They blocked the pressure again. Coach Kelly not happy. Procise will come from the right side of the screen. Good protection, clear vision. The ball's right there. Remember, Procise had the big drop that should have been a touchdown. Now I know there's some RPMs on that thing, but you got to catch it.
One of the strongest arms in college football. Golson has to go along with all that elusiveness and quickness. Brinza just trying to pin the Wolverines back deep. Ball lands at the 2 and checks back at about the same spot, and Michigan will begin at about its own 1-yard line. Beautifully done by Brinza. Ball just checked up there, right where it's spotted, just short of the 2. Michigan down 21-0. Will begin at its own 2 when we come back. Notre Dame football is brought to you by Under Armour, by the Lincoln Motor Company and the first ever MKC, by the UPS store, and by Bud Light. Stay in the game and drink responsibly. More great shots from the archives of the Michigan-Notre Dame rivalry, which began back in 1887.
See the dog in that last shot? That was awesome.
Aerial coverage provided by Goodyear. Everything we've learned making tires that go the distance inspires what we roll into yours. Goodyear, more driven. How about another look at the canine? That is a good-looking mascot.
I mean, can you imagine that today? A dog in the front of your team picture?
Here is Michigan beginning back at its own 2, trailing 21-0. After the beautiful punt pins him there by Brinza. Green tries to buy him a little breathing room. Gets up to the 5-yard line.
Sheldon Day's helmet off. He's got to come out. Justin Utopo will come in for him. Day's an interesting kid out of Indianapolis. His final 2 choices were Michigan and Notre Dame. Highly recruited kid. I think he's become one of the better 3 technique, which is the defensive tackle and a 4-man front. I think he's become one of the better ones in the country.
You can see how hot Gardner started, and since 0 for 6 with a pick. 2nd and 7. And not much there again for Green.
You know, Dan, when Sheldon Day was voted by his teammates as one of the 4 captains, we asked him who the first phone call went to. He said it went to his mom, Carol, and when he told her, she started crying on the phone. That's how much it meant to his family. Pretty cool.
And good to see Sheldon Day healthy with his so-called motor back, as he told us. He was really slowed by that high ankle sprain last year early in the season against Purdue, and is the real leader up front for Van Gorder's defense. 3rd and 5, pressure coming to Gardner, and he gets the ball away complete for the first down at the 15 to Funchess. Gain of 8.
Big time throw by Gardner, especially with Sheldon Day in his face. Watch 91 explode right up the middle. Nobody touches him. Ball has to come out early. The accuracy and the arm strength on this is big time. Right in his face, ball out. The accuracy, that's pretty tight coverage. Nice throw, Devin Gardner.
First catch by Devin Funchess in a while. 4th catch of the night. 49 yards in all. And Michigan has got more than a little breathing room now as Davion Smith gets the call. That was the first catch, by the way, for Funchess since the first quarter, Mike. Sheldon Day, another stop for Notre Dame.
Now, this Gardner kid is really interesting. One of 5 kids raised by his mom, Marlene, in Detroit. He graduated in 3 years, Dan. 3 years. He's a 5th-year player, which means he's almost got his graduate degree. And a lot of the NFL people are talking about him as a quarterback, as a wide receiver, as an athlete. I've got a lot of respect for the way the kid handles himself.
You can see the Tom Harmon patch on Gardner's shoulder pad. And number 98 keeping it along the right side, close to another first down. In fact, just before last year's game, Gardner was awarded that jersey worn by the great Tom Harmon of Michigan, number 98. So it marked the first time in more than 70 years since Harmon graduated that a Wolverine was allowed to wear it. And on 3rd and short, Michigan out of a pretty good hole here at the 2-yard line, keeping this drive alive down 21-zip.
And that was really smart. Did you see how quickly they lined up over the line of scrimmage? Notre Dame wasn't ready. They went to their hurry up out of nowhere and got an easy first down on the quarterback sneak.
And now they've got movement along the left side and a flag.
Yeah, Magnuson and Cole figured it was first count.
Ball start. Offense number 78. 5-yard penalty, still first down.
On Magnuson.
You know, the big question mark for Brady Hoke this year, I think, on their entire team was the offensive line. And they've got 8 guys with starting experience, but which 5 are your best? And they've been mixing and matching, especially inside. Graham Glasgow got a start tonight. He was suspended last week. This O-line's going to have to gel. They had 2 guys drafted in the first 100 picks last year off that O-line.
This is Smith is able to elude 1 tackler and get something out of it on 1st and 15.
Dan, the Notre Dame defensive front is dominating this football game. That was a heck of a play by Justin Utopo. Watch 53 flash. He's going to win at the point. He gets off Glasgow. I don't care that he didn't make the tackle. The play was counterfeit at that point. When he makes the flash right there, plays over, just fly to the football. Number 75, who looks like a young Lewis Nix, is a 330-pound true freshman, Daniel Cage.
2nd and 14. Gardner feeling the pressure and gets it away to Funchess, who is across the 30, well short of the first down. You really have to admire the Notre Dame defense, Mike, again, not only without Kivari Russell because of those players not being allowed to play, but then you've got Ishaq Williams up front. Isaac Rochelle fills in for him. And then the injury to Austin Collinsworth. There he is, the quarterback of that defense. The experience that he had, you really can't overstate it making the calls. They had some bad calls, as we talked about last week, but doing a good job against this Michigan offense tonight.
Yeah, I've been watching them on the back end pre-snap, and the communication is much more efficient throughout all 11 players.
Big third down here for Gardner, feeling the pressure again up the middle and just gets it away. And the Wolverines will be forced to punt. Sheldon Day is having a night.
Yeah, and he doesn't even get touched here because of the pressures. 52, the left tackle Cole steps out, the left guard steps down. How you can't account for Sheldon Day, the best defender Notre Dame has in your pass protection, is beyond me. And that's what Brian Van Gorder's defense does. It shows you the illusion of pressure on one side and then brings pressure from the other.
Talking to Van Gorder before the game, he said, you know what, I didn't think I'd ever come back to the college game, but I'm loving it. Loves his Notre Dame defensive players as Cody Riggs returns this to the 40-yard line. 38-yard punt and a 10-yard return for Riggs, who's a little frustrated he didn't get a little more out of it. So Michigan comes out of the hole, but they're still in a hole. 21-0.
The Notre Dame game, which they're chickening out of.
In no way do I feel that we're chickening out of this series.
There's no doubt about it that Notre Dame chickened out the rivalry. I don't know how else you can describe it.
The chicken dance. Boy, I wonder what they've got planned at Notre Dame if they win this game, huh?
So Michigan leads the series, yada, 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 boo-hoo. Who wins this last game is what really matters.
The old chicken dance song played after last year's win by Michigan at the Big House. You know, a lot has been written and said concerning why this rivalry is being discontinued. I spoke with both Jack Swarbrick, Notre Dame athletic director, and Dave Brandon, the Michigan athletic director, both obviously aware of Notre Dame's situation to get more ACC games on its schedule. Michigan needs to get 9 games on its Big Ten schedule starting next year as Notre Dame starts this drive at its 39, and Golson just kind of running for his life there, throws it away. So with that in mind, what occurred just before the game a couple of years ago was what really kind of fueled some of this back and forth between the two schools, because it was Swarbrick who gave Brandon a letter that he didn't even open until after the game of his decision to discontinue this series. He was exercising a right by either side with 3 games notice. It really caught Brandon off guard. He was very public about it, and Swarbrick was very disappointed and frustrated that he did make such a deal about it on 2nd down and 10. This is Folston cut back for a loss of 1. But Brandon told me in a phone conversation that he had with Swarbrick, actually on his way to that game, that Swarbrick gave him, quote, not the single idea that he was going to do what he did. Even though Brandon told me he was exactly contractually correct.
Right.
He gave it to him before the game, but that meant that that game, the next game, and then this game now means that this is the final one. So the 3 game and out that Swarbrick correctly exercised. So all in all, a lot of he said, she said by both sides. But sad part, bottom line, is that this is the last one in the foreseeable future. 3rd down and 11, Golson, and has the first down complete to Carlisle. On the run, a beautiful throw which gains 21.
Yeah, a lot of things going on here.
Personal foul, roughing the passer, defense number 47. 15 yards from the end of the run.
Wow.
Automatic first down.
And that puts another 15 on. Jake Ryan called for the personal foul on Golson.
Watch Willie Henry, 300 pounds, get pressure right up the middle, forces Golson out. There's the hit. And look at Amir Carlisle again. I said earlier, having the night of his life. I like the fact that the ball brought him back towards the quarterback, and there's Jake Ryan, clearly a late hit, especially if you go to the helmet of a defenseless player.
So that is a 36-yard gain with a 21-yard pass complete to Carlisle, and then 15 yards tacked on because of the late hit by Ryan, and Notre Dame is at the Michigan 26. Folston still on his feet. And that is a loss of 1. Well, most frequently played opponents in Notre Dame history, and some of the things that were being said, at least on Notre Dame's side, was, you know what, it's been a good rivalry, but when you consider who our real rivals are as far as a historic perspective goes, Michigan is 7th down the list in number of times played. This is the 42nd meeting. Fuller, who's having a good night in his own right on 2nd and 12.
You know, Dan, I think it's an interesting conversation. I love the history and tradition of college football, and I grew up with it. I love rivalries, but at the end of the day, who's Michigan's biggest rival? Right? It's Ohio State. There's no doubt about that. You could make the case that Michigan State is next before Notre Dame. Who's Notre Dame's biggest rival? Maybe USC. You could make the case that they're only the 2nd or 3rd biggest game on their schedule. So as much as I love the rivalry and respect the rivalry, at some point we just need to get over it and move on.
Here comes the pressure by Michigan on 3rd and 4. Golson gets rid of it, and he picks up the first down to Fuller. Gain of 5. Nicely read by Golson, who didn't wait long before he pulled the trigger, and Fuller has his 8th catch, 81 yards. He's already got the earlier touchdown.
Watch Fuller again. Remember we talked earlier in the game where I said the wide receiver's job on slant is to win inside. I like the route by Fuller. You start up before you come back under. He beats Kaunis, who's a pretty good corner. And William Fuller, who started slowly in this game, has become a focal point.
1st and 10. McDaniel is to the left of Golson. And Golson gives it to McDaniel just to kind of cap off what you were talking about, rivalries earlier. And then, oh, by the way, a couple of days before this game, Notre Dame announces the Ohio State series, which will ensue in 22-23. And Brandon told me last night that he said, you know, I kind of felt like I got caught short. You know, Swarbrick kind of one-upped him, beat him to the punch, so he's scrambling for the schedule. So he gets UCLA on the schedule the same year.
Yeah, they get UCLA, and you know, just let's get over it and move on. All those series are going to be fun to watch down the road.
And you never know, Michigan and Notre Dame are going to meet in a bowl game. 2nd and 6, and this is Carlisle going in for the score. Second touchdown of the night for Carlisle.
Amir Carlisle, I mentioned the transfer from USC in the slot, quick and explosive. Bubble screen, gets in behind Nick Martin. His father is Dwayne Carlisle, the strength and conditioning coach for Purdue, who Notre Dame has next week. And I'll tell you, this kid's got a lot of talent. People have been waiting for it. He kind of got buried on the bench, but it's a huge night for Amir Carlisle.
And is Notre Dame, in this long rivalry indeed, going to have the last laugh? It's somewhat of a laugher right now, 28-0. Irish on the latest touchdown by Carlisle. Well, the college football season now underway. Don't miss a special Faraday with legendary Fighting Irish coach Lou Holtz. Golf Channel, 10 Eastern Time, Tuesday night. Faraday was here on the Notre Dame campus yesterday with the 1988 Notre Dame national champion coach at the pep rally.
This is a special Notre Dame team.
Holtz, of course, a big golf fan, loves to play, and, well, not exactly the greatest of hair days for Faraday yesterday on campus. But again, it was very hot, very humid.
I don't get the sense he really cares.
No, he doesn't care in the least bit. That's part of the charm of Faraday, so that ought to be good for Lou Holtz Tuesday night at 10 o'clock on Golf Channel. Brinza puts it in play as Notre Dame has stretched it out 28-0. And Norfleet is going to give this one a try. Gets no further than the 15-yard line. So with 2:56 left in the third, it has been all Notre Dame so far. Makes the Leprechaun really happy. Well, not in the history of the series has Michigan ever been shut out against Notre Dame. Still scoreless with less than 3 minutes left in the third. So Devin Gardner beginning at his own 16. Goes to the air, and it's complete to Funchess. And it looks like he's going to be marked maybe just short of the first down. Cody Riggs on the coverage of the big 6'5" junior. Nope, first down pickup for Funchess.
Cody Riggs in press. Look at the height difference. You know, this is the guy that I think they've got to try and get vertically in the seams, down the field. Nothing's gone deep so far except for one interception by Michigan.
This is Green.
And they haven't been able to run the football. Last week against Appalachian State, they ran crazy. Both Green and Davion Smith went for over 100 yards. Tonight, not at all.
22 yards total for Green, just 20 for Norfleet. Again, in what Nussmeier and Hope want to make a more physical Michigan offense up front, kind of return that offensive line to more of the glory type of days that Michigan has enjoyed in the past, but it is not the case. Notre Dame has beaten them up front. 2nd and 9. Gardner going back and going long. Down to Funchess, and there is a great example of what Funchess can do. Cody Riggs, who's 8 inches shorter than Funchess, not able to prevent 33-yard gain.
And we literally just talked about this. Same thing, press coverage now. There's the hitch and go. Throw it up and let him go get it. He can eat lunch off of Riggs's helmet. I mean, the size differential is 6'5" versus about 5'9" or 10.
Just like that, Funchess has him in business at the 40. Nothing going on the ground. Notre Dame really bottling up that Michigan running attack. That was Jerron Jones up front there, who moved inside on the defensive front for Notre Dame last year when they got decimated by injuries.
Funchess was a tight end in name last year, and they moved him around. He had 49 catches, but I really believe with him lined up everywhere, you've got to identify those one-on-one opportunities and throw it up. Now, you're going to see him out wide, and I'm guessing that Notre Dame's going to keep a safety over top of him.
They're 6'5" versus 5'9".
Yeah, but there's a safety over top.
2nd and 9. Gardner's looking Funchess way. Now he's scrambling and fumbles the football, and I believe Notre Dame has it. Yes, they do. Funchess, or rather Gardner, was running for his life. Ball came loose. Last thing Michigan needs now is this turnover.
Joe Schmidt, the former walk-on middle linebacker, is going to get a piece. Gardner keeps it alive, eyes down the field. Number 38 from the left side, right there with the hit. Ball pops loose. Number 90, Isaac Rochelle, jumps on top, and it's big turnover for Notre Dame.
Schmidt, the former walk-on who earned himself a starting job. Double thumbs up by Van Gorder, and Notre Dame has the ball back. Well, we've talked about some of the inconsistencies exhibited really down the stretch of the season last year by Devin Gardner. He has thrown an interception and he's just fumbled. It was a big hit by Joe Schmidt, which caused the latest turnover, 2nd of the game for Michigan. And here is Notre Dame and Greg Bryant up across the 40 as the final few seconds tick off here in the 3rd.
You know, Dan, I think the statistics I care about the first 2 weeks, Notre Dame was +2 last week in turnovers versus Rice. They're +2 tonight, and they're a completely different team in the red zone than they were a year ago.
Gain of 6, 2nd and 4. Van Gorder and his troops going over the latest strategy for the next time that tough defense gets back out on the field. Bryant close to the first down, but just short. That'll bring up 3rd down and less than a yard. Final seconds tick off, and Brady Hoke is in an even bigger hole. 28-0. All Notre Dame. As the Irish take a shutout to the 4th quarter. We'll return to Notre Dame Stadium after these messages from your NBC local station. A couple of turnovers forced by Notre Dame. We're watching Irish football on NBC, presented by Under Armour. So Notre Dame is building a 21-0 lead at half, adding another score in the 3rd. A couple of touchdowns by Carlisle. A couple of turnovers forced by Notre Dame. And the Irish faced with a 3rd and 1 here to begin the 4th quarter.
Yeah, Michigan needs a stop badly. Bang.
At the 40, and they get it. Carlisle swarmed by multiple Wolverines.
I think it was Stribling, number 8, that got there first. They've been beat up at corner. They're using some of their backups. That was an important stop. Forces a punt. And when you're down 28-0 starting the fourth quarter, you don't have many possessions left. You got to get the ball back and take advantage.
Yeah, it was 3rd and short, and loss of 4 brings out the punting unit and Kyle Brinza. Dennis Norfleet, all 5'7" of him, waiting back at his 20. And he's been doing a lot of waving tonight for Brinza punts. Fair caught at the 20.
You know, in the Brian Kelly era, one of the things I've seen improve dramatically is team speed on defense. And I think Brian Van Gorder has done a great job putting guys in position to make plays. And that team speed was evident tonight. Jalen Smith, 235 pounds, runs about 4'5", looks like a state trooper bringing down Gardner. Now, watch Cody Riggs, pedal, drive, quickness, short tackling, very aggressive. And again, Jalen Smith beats the right tackle easily, flashes, his eyes see it, he trusts it. Really good stuff.
Gardner begins this series to the air, and stepping in front is Riggs. Second interception for the Irish, and the transfer from Florida puts the ball back in the hands of the Irish.
Riggs has been aggressive both games. We just showed you on the last package, it's just a quick pedal. He's so fast coming out of the pedal. I don't know if he secured it or not, but I love the way there's the football between his legs. He's got it. Oh, it hits the ground, but it looks like he's secured it the whole time.
It looks like it's secured with that one hand.
Yeah, I'm 0 for 2 tonight, and I think we're going to get a review here. I think they're going to stop it and take a look at this. But I have to tell you how impressed I am with the change of direction coming out of his back pedal, how quick he is bouncing out of it.
Well, here we go from the 26. Notre Dame with the ball back. Golson. Just dropped by Fuller. 2nd and 10.
Couple drops by Fuller tonight. You know, Doug Flutie, you and I sat in a meeting room with Everett Golson in August watching him with his quarterbacks, and the thing that surprises me early in this season, Doug, is he just seems so confident both in the Rice game and this entire game tonight on a bigger stage.
No doubt about it, and is so confident in what he is seeing, his reads of coverage. Michigan's defense is just as complicated as what Notre Dame's doing with the zone blitzing. He knows when he's protecting, so he can hang on to the football and go up the field. He knows when there's a free rusher and he has to get rid of it quickly. His confidence in what he is seeing and the timing of his throws has been impeccable.
Different kid than 2 years ago when he was just kind of a game manager on the way to a 12-0 season before they got spanked by Alabama in the national championship game.
That was a gain of 6 by McDaniel, sets up 3rd and 4 from the Michigan 20. Golson swings it out to McDaniel, looking for the first down marker, diving out of bounds, and he picks it up.
And the nice thing about this throw is he knows that Brennan Byers coming off the edge, and he's got to lead his running back perfectly so he can catch it in stride and get to the first down. If this ball slows him up at all, he doesn't get there. Nice throw, nice touch. McDaniel does the rest.
There is Matt LaFleur, the quarterback's coach, who was added to the Notre Dame coaching staff this season. And like Van Gorder, he comes from NFL experience, spending some time with Washington and coaching the likes of RG3 and some others. So that has also improved Golson's confidence. Golson has the ball knocked out as it was being delivered from his hand. I believe it was intended for Fuller.
You know, LaFleur, the quarterback coach, is only 34 years old, and he spent some time at Central Michigan with Brian Kelly, so it was a familiar hire for Brian Kelly. He looks like he's about 14, but don't let that fool you. He's had a lot of football experience, and I really believe that his experience with RG3, trying to get a really agile, mobile quarterback used to throwing in the pocket, helps him with both.
2nd and 10, little option pitch here to McDaniel, who's down to the 10.
And the other thing, Doug Flutie and I sat in the quarterback room a few weeks ago. I mentioned this earlier with all the quarterbacks and Matt LaFleur. And what I liked about it was his approach was casual. And I think the quarterbacks like that. They like the young coach, the youth. He got his point across, but Doug, it was kind of, hey, we're doing all in this together. I want your feedback. I just don't want to be yelling at you.
He definitely got feedback from the players, and Everett asked the right questions and brought his thoughts forward. How he was reading coverage, where he wanted. We were talking about red zone plays and how to read it top to bottom. A lot of give and take.
So Notre Dame takes its first time out of the second half. 12:19 to go. It's all Fighting Irish. Notre Dame football is brought to you by John Hancock. When life comes, be prepared for it. By Gatorade. Gatorade knows it all begins within. Win from within. And by Comcast Business, built for business. So on a perfect Saturday night in South Bend, Notre Dame Stadium overflowing with another sellout crowd at Goodyear Blimp, capturing all these beautiful views high above the Notre Dame campus. Goodyear, more driven. Big down here for Notre Dame. 3rd and 6 from the Wolverine 10. Golson with plenty of time and buying more. Now what's he going to do? Throw it away. And that'll bring out Brunza to attempt a field goal on 4th down. Brennan Beyer among the Michigan defense that was providing some pressure.
He's looking left. He wants Chris Brown the whole time. Brown's pattern took way too long to develop. That's really a good job by Frank Clark, not letting them get out wide. Here's the route. Good press coverage here. It took too long. He came off of Brown and started to scramble way before that.
Grounding was the call. So that pushes Notre Dame back, and Brunza now setting up for what's going to be about a 42-yard field goal attempt.
Only 7 for 14 career between 40 and 49 and 40 and 49.
Well, no problem there.
Big way.
Haven't been many problems for Notre Dame. Big problems for Brady Hoke in Michigan. 12 minutes left. 31-6. Less than 3 minutes into the final quarter, Notre Dame running it up on Michigan 31-0. Now time for the Unlimited Update presented by Sprint. Golson, 22 of 33, 3 touchdown passes, 2 to Amir Carlisle and 1 to Will Fuller, who also had one last week. Notre Dame defense has forced some turnovers, and the Notre Dame receivers averaging about 10 yards per catch in the 3 touchdowns, one by Fuller and Amir Carlisle. Cam McDaniel has one on the ground, which opened up the scoring. And Brian Kelly, who came into this game 1-3 against Michigan, looks like he and the Irish are going to have the victory here in the last scheduled meeting between the two teams. Wolverines will begin the next series again from the 25-yard line as we now take a look at our quarterback comparison, brought to you by the Lincoln Motor Company. Such a hyped matchup between Gardner and Golson. What do you think's happened here to Gardner especially?
Well, between the interception, the fumble, I think I would lean towards Golson just having a tremendous night. I don't think Gardner's had a horrible night. I just think Golson has continued what we talked about earlier in the show, which is, okay, you had one great game in your career. That was last week against Rice. Can you build on that?
Look at the drives this half. Michigan, 4 possessions, 3 turnovers, and a punt. That's not going to get you out of a 21-0 hole at halftime, which they were down. Ball complete at the 30 to Funchess. Gain of 6.
That's about his 8th catch, I believe, and he's probably over 100 yards plus or minus.
He is. 8 catches, 105 yards, Mike. He had 7 receptions, 95 yards last week for 3 touchdowns. But again, Michigan is scoreless. They have never been shut out in the history of this rivalry. They've turned the ball over more. In fact, 6 trips to South Bend now, 19 turnovers for Michigan. Pass complete to Khalid Hill, who picks up the first down on 2nd and 4 call. Gain of 9.
Dan, I mentioned earlier, I think the Achilles heel for this Michigan offense is not Devin Gardner, but the offensive line. They're mixing and matching, looking for the 5 best. Remember, their left tackle last year was Taylor Lewan, went with the 11th pick to Tennessee. Their right tackle is Michael Schofield, 3rd round pick to Denver. They're struggling to find the right people and get them in the right places. And tonight, they haven't been able to run the football and take any pressure off the quarterback.
Gardner feels pressure from the left, tries to get out of it, but he is not going to get away from Jerron Jones, who wrapped him up low. Gardner able to get 2, but more penetration up front for Notre Dame's defense.
Yeah, and it was the edge pressure from Matthias Farley coming this way that forces the step up into the pocket. Once he gets forced up, then Jerron Jones, who's had a big night tonight, finishes the play. Jones is a man. He's a dude, and there's a difference between a guy and a dude.
What is the difference?
The guy's just a guy. A dude is a big-time athlete that makes plays.
A guy that's about 6'5", 315?
That's a good start.
You get over the 300 mark and you get closer to dude land. Well, this is a dude, Funchess,
wow,
who grabs his 9th catch of the game, but only for a gain of 2, and Funchess is slow to get up.
The Notre Dame safeties and nickels have had a great game tonight. Really bounced back from a poor effort last week.
Last thing Hoke wants to see is one of his big stars slow in getting up.
The reaction, the one-on-one tackle, well done by Farley, who's having a big night. And if Funchess is hurt, it's going to be a big deal for Michigan. You know, they've got Miami of Ohio next, followed by Utah, and then they get into their Big Ten program. I mean, if they can't run the football, he's the only guy that scares you.
How did Brian Van Gorder describe the game beforehand? He said the 2 game wreckers are Gardner and Funchess. I am worried about those guys. But with everything that's happened up front and the pressure on Gardner, Funchess has still had a big game, but you can't do it all by yourself, and you can't do it with 3 turnovers either.
Yeah. Notre Dame's +5 on turnovers in 2 games this season. That's the biggest predictor of success in a football game. Turnover differential.
Not only has Hoke never won a road game against the ranked opponent, which we talked about earlier, Michigan hasn't beaten a ranked team on the road in 8 years. Funchess back up on his feet. The last time that happened was against 2nd ranked Notre Dame at the time, back in 2006. So Hoke was in need of kind of a statement game on the road, and he got just the opposite of what he had hoped for. This is a statement by Notre Dame tonight, leading 31-zip, 9.5 remaining. 3rd down and 5. Gardner trying to shovel it out to the outside, but Justice Hayes.
And Dan, you talk about road games for Michigan and their lack of success against top opponents. It's the first time in Michigan's history that they play at Notre Dame, at Michigan State, and at Ohio State. If they can't learn to win on the road, this is going to be a long season for Michigan.
And again, Michigan losing 5 of the last 6 games down the stretch. Last year, they got hammered by Kansas State in the bowl game, 31-14. And on 4th and 5, trailing 31-zip, they punted away. Cody Riggs will set up Notre Dame in the next series at about the 12-yard line. 31-0. Notre Dame over their rival Michigan. 9:16 left in the game. Notre Dame up 31-0. As you mentioned, Michigan's upcoming schedule a moment ago, Mike, there it is.
It's manageable. Miami of Ohio, Utah, Minnesota at Rutgers before they get to Penn State. Now they've got to recover from this, but keep in mind, at Michigan State and at Ohio State. So the best teams are on their schedule this year are on the road.
Also bring into historic account tonight, with it being 31-0. The largest margin of victory in the history of the series is 38 points. Wilson's still in there and handed off to Bryant, who's finally brought down. Joe Bolden leading the charge for the Wolverines.
What did Sheldon Day say about the rivalry? You know, bliddity-bo, badoo-badoo, who cares? We got to win the last one or something.
And what did Captain Nick Martin, the center, tell us about the rivalry? He didn't hesitate. He said, I hate Michigan. Even though he was recruited by Michigan, he took a trip to Ann Arbor. But he said, you know what? I don't like Michigan. I don't like their helmets. I don't like them.
He said, I hate them. He said it's an acquired taste, but it happens very quickly.
And he made it very clear that he wanted his team to go out in the last meeting here with a win. It's been a resounding performance by the Irish as Fuller gets the call.
Hey, Doug, we've talked a lot about the quarterbacks tonight. What has impressed you beyond Golson in this Notre Dame offense?
Number one is Carlisle, receiver. I mean, this is a guy that was a running back. He moves into the slot, and he's got such quickness and suddenness to his cuts. He's creating separation. But you expect that. But the catching the ball on the sideline in his hands, tapping his toes, running upfield routes, he's been phenomenal.
I agree with all of that. You and I watched tape of him one day. Remember how quickly he beat press coverage, and you were like, oh, wow, look at that.
Golson on 3rd and 5, incomplete. That'll bring up 4th down. He wanted Koyak. And what does it tell you about Golson, who's about to move to 12-1 career as a starter? Guy wins ball games.
Tells you to stay away from Alabama.
Oh, that was the tape that I guess the Notre Dame coaching staff was forced to watch because Nussmeier, the offensive coordinator, they had all sorts of worries. Oh, that one just got off there by Brinza. And calling for the fair catch at the 41 is Norfleet.
And that was Mike McCray, who blocked a punt a week ago.
42. Yeah, which led to a touchdown by Ben Gedeon. That was seems like a long time ago in the victory over Appalachian State. Mike McCray, number 9, almost getting to Brinza. Not tonight, though. Monday, September 22nd. Last season's #1 news show is back. 3-time Emmy winner James Spader returns on the blacklist Monday, September 22nd on NBC. Notre Dame student body fired up. They're Irish up 31-0. Gardner with a give to Green. Well, it's a huge night, not just because it's 31-0 Notre Dame. Let's go down to Catherine Tappan.
Yeah, Dan, this is arguably the biggest recruiting weekend of the season for Notre Dame. Over 50 high school recruits on campus to take on this rivalry. Running backs coach Tony Alford is the recruiting coordinator. He told me, I want these guys to watch how players interact with the coaches. He also said the best recruiting tool is a win. How about a shutout, guys?
And Mike, we were on the field before the game. The school's 150 miles apart. It's almost like a semi-reunion when you get down there. Coaches who know coaches and players who played for both, you know, on both sides of the ball who get together and see each other. That is another reason why this rivalry was so much fun. I mean, they all know each other really well for the most part.
No doubt. Brady Hoke and Harry Heastan, the offensive line coach for Notre Dame, were college coaching mates back in '88 at Toledo. Obviously, defense coordinator Madison was here at Notre Dame for 8 years. The connections go on forever, and I think what Catherine was talking about with the recruiting, Tony Alford is kind of acknowledged as one of the top recruiters in the entire country.
On 3rd and 8.
Ball was tipped.
Yeah, ball wobbled into Darbo's direction, and he was able to hang on for a gain of 10. Redfield was over there on the coverage.
Yeah, if the ball's tipped, there's no pass interference, and I think they got a piece of it.
Well, Funchess as Catherine Tappan told us during the break, walked gingerly back onto the field, so he is out there.
Yeah,
but he's not the same.
Yeah, I think he needs to get out. And look, he's saying, yeah, I'm coming out and hopefully get ready for a game against Miami of Ohio next week.
As this one has been out of hand for a while. And Gardner is going to go down. It was Daniel Cage, number 75, who had a handful of his jersey, and he ends up losing 5. There is Cage. Talk about a dude. 6 feet, 325-pound freshman, all Ohio selection.
He is a dude. And he'll be one of those guys that'll get in Paul Longo's weight and strength program. And 3 years from now, his body weight will have distributed itself in a different fashion. But look at the strength. Just hold on to him with one shirt full. Holds on long enough for Utopo and Buddies to get there. They got 7 to 9 true freshmen playing on defense tonight. Crazy.
Yep, Van Gorder said it might be 8 by the time the night was over when we talked to him yesterday. Davion Smith carries for the first down for Michigan, as Notre Dame, a lot of the second team members in there for Van Gorder's defense, trying to preserve a shutout. We're under 5 minutes left.
That's
never happened.
Only the 4th time, Dan, all night that they've crossed the 50-yard line.
Sheldon Day, who you just saw, a big reason for that pressure. And here comes the edge pressure by Farley on the left side, and then Gardner's able to get rid of it for a completion to Darboh. Gain of 13.
By far the best protection we've seen for the quarterback in quite a while. Blocked really well. And then Darboh gets inside, brings it back outside, back to the quarterback, which was the key to that. And then you can just see they do a nice job. Look at the pocket. Easy to step up into a throw and deliver with accuracy.
So Michigan in an unfamiliar position down at the Notre Dame 24. And maybe a yard for Davion Smith. Romeo Aguara up there had a sack last week versus Rice. And the Irish defense just continues to bottle things up.
We've talked so much the first 2 weeks about Everett Golson. We kind of figured the defense would be a major question mark with new coordinator Brian Van Gorder, but tonight, and it remains to be seen what kind of team Michigan becomes throughout the year, but tonight this defense has played without any breakdowns in the secondary, and they've won the battle at the line of scrimmage.
2nd and 9, pump fake by Gardner going deep. Darboh was the intended receiver. Cole Luke was running with him.
And this is a double move. Cole Luke, who I would call a developmental corner, a lot of ability. There's the first move, gets a piece, and in college football you're allowed to get a piece. Got to get his head around. There was an opportunity there to throw a touchdown pass for Gardner.
Just saw the future of Notre Dame's defensive secondary, and Cole Luke there, sophomore from Chandler, Arizona, 36. Max Redfield, impressive sophomore from Mission Viejo, California, who we visited with yesterday. Very impressive young man who originally committed to USC for several months before he said he made a business decision and decided to come to Notre Dame. 3rd and 9. Nowhere to go again.
Very conservative call. 3rd and 9, inside handoff. They had bubble screen set up wide. I saw Coach Nussmeier in the field before the game, and I said, hey, I watched the Notre Dame-Alabama National Championship game earlier this week just to kind of watch what you did. And he looked at me with a little sly grin and said, boy, I hope it's the same result tonight.
Well, this play right here on 4th and 9 will have a lot to do of whether Michigan is maybe shut out for the first time in the history of this rivalry. And Gardner is swarmed over and goes down at the 35, and Notre Dame takes over with 2:40 left, and Van Gorder is beside himself.
That tells you a little something about Brian Van Gorder. He brought the house. Man coverage, and watch, everybody's coming. Farley off the edge. Colin Hill, the true freshman, up the middle. Look at 43, 6'1", 230 pounds from Texas.
Brian Van Gorder's defense has played brilliantly tonight. Next Saturday, the Shamrock Series heads to Indianapolis for a heated in-state tug-of-war in prime time with Purdue.
Touchdown, Boilermakers! Let that passion out. Let that show tonight. Let them know we are a team.
Irish had a tough time on the road last year against Purdue. Coverage begins next Saturday, 6:30 Eastern on NBCSN, followed by the game at 7:30 on NBC. Malik Zaire, the new quarterback for Notre Dame. Malik got into the game last week against Rice. Gives it to Greg Bryant. Zaire started off his college career last week with a 56-yard run down the sideline, and we were joking around with some of his teammates because he was a little bit gassed as he made it down to the edge of the sideline there, deep into Rice territory.
It looked like he was shot out of the cannon at the beginning of the run, and it looked like he was carrying the cannon at the end of the run.
But for the second straight week, you get Zaire some reps.
Yep.
Kelly told us to talk about the importance of that, just getting him into the game. Well, not only Michigan from the Big Ten struggling tonight against Notre Dame, how about the struggles of the conference today? Purdue gets whacked by Central Michigan. Oregon in a huge game out in Eugene takes care of Michigan State. Northwestern beaten. Ohio State getting beaten by Virginia Tech, that game in the third quarter, and Brady Hoke is on his way to the worst loss of his tenure at Michigan, now in his 4th season.
I had trouble seeing any college team put 46 or 47 points on the board like Oregon did on a Pat Narduzzi Michigan State defense.
Timeout on the field, 1:20 left. Notre Dame, are they going to preserve the first shutout in history? Well, satisfying for Notre Dame Nation as you look at Michigan Athletic Director Jack Swarbrick, and so much, of course, was made of the ending of this series, and we talked about that earlier in the game. And here is Zaire running it out on 3rd and 16, short of the first down, but it appears that this is going to be the very first shutout in the 42 meetings between these two schools, which first met in 1887.
Yeah. Letting the clock run down.
Well, there was all sorts of celebration in the big house last year. Chicken dance being played over the PA system. And so much importance put on by both teams, all the players on each side, as to ending this rivalry with a win, getting the last laugh per se. And Notre Dame has done something tonight, frankly, we didn't see this coming, Mike. We did not.
No.
I mean, who could have seen a 31-0 shellacking as you take a look at Notre Dame's upcoming schedule? We mentioned the Shamrock Series from Lucas Oil a week from tonight. Then it's at Syracuse in the Meadowlands. Stanford, which got beat by USC today.
Yep.
And then they've got North Carolina at home, and then they go on the road to top-ranked Florida State and Tallahassee. So, you don't want to get ahead of yourself, but there are possibilities, especially with this victory tonight. Stanford will be very, very tough. You know that, but possibilities of the unbeatens going at it in Tallahassee, Seminoles and Irish, we'll see.
It's one of the highest, shortest punts I've ever seen.
Well, there's been so many close calls Mentioned all of them. In fact, 3 of the last 5 came down to the final 27 seconds of regulation. All of them won by Michigan. And we thought perhaps that this was set up for another one of those classic Michigan Notre Dame finishes, but Notre Dame pulled away and never looked back. Gardner's pass complete to Norfleet. Stops the clock 15 seconds with the first down made.
I'm really impressed by how well they've tackled and how aggressive and fast they've played defensively.
Intended for Khalid Hill.
You know, you mentioned the schedule a moment ago, Dan, and bottom line is until they get to Florida State in the middle of October, they don't play in another team's building. You know, the game at Syracuse is at the Meadowlands. Everything else is at home. So a real opportunity for this team to make a dent in their schedule.
Well, the series will go Michigan 24, Notre Dame 16-1 in this 42nd meeting. And the last play of the game is a pick. And it's Elijah Shoemate. Is this the way it's going to end? Talk about salt in the wound. Shoemate takes it back the other way to round out a 37-0 shutout. First time the Wolverines ever shut out in the history of this series. It took 42 meetings to do it, but it happens between Kelly and Hoke on a picture-perfect night, literally, at Notre Dame Stadium.
I love the respect between Kelly and Hoke.
By the way, Shoemate punctuates his night with the interception return for a touchdown. He also had a career-high 10 tackles. As Notre Dame's defense just manhandled Michigan's offense.
The safety position was tremendous tonight. Last play, they're still bringing pressure. Shoemate aggressively steps in front for a pick 6. Gardner came out of this thing limping. And as you said, Dan, is this the way this is going to end? Unbelievable.
4th Michigan turnover.
Everybody off the field. Looks like there's the hit, a late hit, and Redfield took a shot at the quarterback that you can't take. The quarterback is
extend
protected.
The period with an untimed down.
Roughing the passer.
The quarterback on an interception is protected. Redfield took a gratuitous shot that he shouldn't have taken. Now, if he's trying to make a tackle, you can block him, but you can't do it from behind that way. The peel back on a defenseless player.
So Michigan's going to get another play because it can't end on the defensive penalty.
Now, Notre Dame will get the play, it just will take the penalty.
And you can see the look on Redfield. Funchess is banged up earlier, and the two Devons, both of them come out of this 31-0 score and certainly not 100% shape. So yeah, Michigan gets the one last play and Notre Dame takes the knee. And that is it. Brian Kelly moves to 2-4 versus Michigan, and that number will stay that way for a while as the two longtime rivals not scheduled to meet. First shutout of Michigan in the series. Fuller, a career-high 9 receptions for 89 yards and a touchdown. Carlisle had a couple of touchdown catches, 7 receptions in all, as Golson spread it out to 7 different receivers. Let's go down to Catherine.
All right, Dan, thank you. Coach, a 31-0 shutout performance over Michigan. How much is this a statement win for your defense?
Well, you know, our defense played great today. Obviously, they have a lot of things that they have to do against this defense, this offense with, you know, Funchess and Gardner. They did a great job. Coach Van Gorder, you know, really had them guessing all day. And, you know, we've got a lot of young guys. You know, we played 19 freshmen and redshirt freshmen, and they're excited to be out there flying around, and it was nice to see.
Offensively, Everett Golson once again puts on a show. Also, he had some weapons to throw to in this game. What can you say about how comfortable he's feeling right now?
Well, he's getting better. You know, we said that this would be an opportunity for him to step up his game. He would tell you that he played pretty good. He can play even better, and that's a good thing, you know, as we obviously have a great schedule in front of us, a tough schedule. So a good win. Our kids played hard tonight. And again, it's one step for us. We're not going to get too crazy about it. We're going to enjoy the win tonight and come back and get ready for Purdue.
Coach, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Historic ending to an historic rivalry as the alma mater is played in the corner of the end zone. Much to celebrate for Notre Dame. They win it 31-0. For Brian Kelly's full press conference, go to NBCSports.com. Reminder, next Saturday, Notre Dame heads to Indianapolis to take on Purdue in this year's Shamrock Series game at Lucas Oil. Coverage begins next Saturday, 6:30 Eastern on NBCSN, followed by the game at 7:30 on NBC. Coming up next, except on the West Coast, it's your local news. Right now, stay with us on NBCSN for the Notre Dame post-game show for our entire NBC crew. Dan Hicks saying so long from Notre Dame Stadium. All Irish, 31-0.